The Third Man by Graham Greene, 11. After he left me, Martins went straight off to drink himself silly. He chose the Oriental to do it in, the dreary, smoky little nightclub that stands behind a sham eastern facade. The same semi-nude photographs on the stairs, the same half-drunk Americans at the bar, the same bad wine and extraordinary gins. He might have been in any third-rate night haunt, in any other shabby capital of a shabby Europe. At one point of the hopeless early hours, the International Patrol took a look at the scene, and a Russian soldier made a bolt for the stairs at the sight of them, moving with bent, averted head like a small harvest animal. The Americans never stirred, and nobody interfered with them. Martins had drink after drink. He would probably have had a woman, too, but the cabaret performers had all gone home. And there were practically no women left in the place, except for one beautiful, shrewd-looking French journalist, who made one remark to her companion and fell contemptuously asleep. Martins moved on. At Maxim's, a few couples were dancing rather gloomily, and at a place called Chez Victor, the heating had failed, and people sat in overcoats drinking cocktails. By this time, the spots were swimming in front of Martin's eyes, and he was oppressed by a sense of loneliness. His mind reverted to the girl in Dublin and the one in Amsterdam. That was one thing that didn't fool you, the straight drink, the simple physical act. One didn't expect fidelity from a woman. His mind revolved in circles, from sentiment to lust and back again, from belief to cynicism. The trams had stopped, and he set out obstinately on foot to find Harry's girl. He wanted to make love to her, just like that, no nonsense, no sentiment. He was in the mood for violence, and the snowy road heaved like a lake and set his mind on a new course toward sorrow, eternal love, renunciation. In a corner of a sheltering wall, he was sick in the snow. It must have been about 3 a.m. when he climbed the stairs to Anna's room. He was nearly sober by that time, and had only one idea in his head, that she must know about Harry too. He felt that somehow this knowledge would pay the mortmain that memory levies on human beings, and he would stand a chance with Harry's girl. If you are in love yourself, it never occurs to you that the girl doesn't know. You believe you have told it plainly in a tone of voice, a touch of the hand. When Anna opened the door to him with astonishment at the sight of him tousled on the threshold, he never imagined that she was opening the door to a stranger. He said, "Anna, I've found out everything. Come in," she said. "You don't want to wake the house." She was in a dressing gown. The divan had become a bed, the kind of tumbled bed that showed how sleepless the occupant had been. "Now," she said while he stood there, fumbling for words, "what is it? I thought you were going to keep away. Are the police after you?" "No." "You really didn't kill that man, did you?" "Of course not." "You're drunk, aren't you?" "I am a bit," he said sulkily. The meeting seemed to be going on the wrong lines. He said angrily, "I'm sorry." "Why, I would like a drink myself," he said. "I've been with the British police. They are satisfied I didn't do it, but I've learned everything from them. Harry was in a racket, a bad racket," he said hopelessly. He was no good at all. We were both wrong." "You'd better tell me," Anna said. She sat down on the bed, and he told her, swaying slightly beside the table where her typescript part still lay open on the front page. I imagine he told it to her pretty confusedly, dwelling chiefly on what had stuck most in his mind: the children dead with meningitis, and the children in the mental ward. He stopped, and they were silent. She said, "Is that all?" "Yes." "You were sober when they told you? They really proved it?" "Yes," he added drearily. "So that, you see, was Harry." "I'm glad he's dead now," she said. "I wouldn't have wanted him to rot for years in prison." "But can you understand how Harry, your Harry, my Harry, could have got mixed up?" he said hopelessly. "I feel as though he had never really existed, that we dreamed him. He was laughing at fools like us all the time." "He may have been. What does it matter?" she said. "Sit down, don't worry." He had pictured himself comforting her, not this other way about. She said, "If he was alive now, he might be able to explain, but we've got to remember him as he was to us. There are always so many things one doesn't know about a person. Even a person one loves, good things, bad things. We have to leave plenty of room for them. Those children, she said angrily. For God's sake, stop making people in your image. Harry was real. He wasn't just your hero and my lover. He was Harry. He was in a racket. He did things. What about it? He was the man we knew. He said, Don't talk such bloody wisdom. Don't you see that I love you? She looked at him in astonishment. You? Yes, me. I don't kill people with fake drugs. I'm not a hypocrite who persuades people that I'm the greatest. I'm just a bad writer who drinks too much and falls in love with girls. She said, But I don't even know what color your eyes are. If you'd rung me up just now and asked me whether you were dark or fair or wore a mustache, I wouldn't have known. Can't you get him out of your mind? No, he said. As soon as they've cleared up this Koch murder, I'm leaving Vienna. I can't feel interested any longer in whether Kurtz killed Harry or the third man. Whoever killed him, it was a kind of justice. Maybe I'd kill him myself under these circumstances. But you still love him. You love a cheat, a murderer. I loved a man, she said. I told you. A man doesn't alter because you find out more about him. He's still the same man. I hate the way you talk. I've got a splitting headache, and you talk and talk. I didn't ask you to come. You make me cross. Suddenly she laughed. She said, You are so comic. You come here at 3 a.m, a stranger, and say you love me. Then you get angry and pick a quarrel. What do you expect me to do or say? I haven't seen you laugh before. Do it again. I like it. There isn't enough for 2 laughs, she said. He took her by the shoulders and shook her gently. He said, I'd make comic faces all day long. I'd stand on my head and grin at you between my legs. I'd learn a lot of jokes from the books on after-dinner speaking. Come away from the window. There are no curtains. There's nobody to see, but automatically checking his statement, he wasn't quite so sure. A long shadow that had moved, perhaps, with the movement of the clouds over the moon, was motionless again. He said, You still love Harry, don't you? Yes. Perhaps I do. I don't know. He dropped his hands and said, I'll be pushing off. He walked rapidly away. He didn't bother to see whether he was being followed, to check up on the shadow. But passing by the end of the street, he happened to turn, and there, just around the corner, pressed against the wall to escape notice, was a thick, stocky figure. Martin stopped and stared. There was something familiar about that figure. Perhaps, he thought, I have grown unconsciously used to him during these last 24 hours. Perhaps he is one of those who so assiduously checked my movements. Martin stood there, 20 yards away, staring at the silent, motionless figure in the dark street who stared back at him. A police spy, perhaps, or an agent of these other men. These men who had corrupted Harry first and then killed him. Even possibly the third man. It was not the face that was familiar, for he could not make out so much as the angle of the jaw, nor a movement, for the body was so still that he began to believe that the whole thing was an illusion caused by shadow. He called sharply, Do you want anything? And there was no reply. He called again, with the irascibility of drink, Answer, can't you? And an answer came. For a window curtain was drawn petulantly back by some sleeper who had awakened, and the light fell straight across the narrow street and lit up the features of Harry Lime. And that is the end of the 11th.